Shalom. Listen, Iran. All right, let's say it right for the people. Iran, they deserve it. And I wanted to take a little bit longer, maybe. I'm going to kind of just free flow this one. The short content, I don't know if it'll be the right length. But I just need to unload a little bit on this narrative that's coming up and continues to come up. And of course, it stems from the Palestine, but this anti-Israel conspiracies. There's an old saying: if you walk around with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. All right. Yeah, more scientific psychology, we call this confirmation bias. All right. If you are certain, you believe that Israel is behind, let's just say, things in the past, historically, and currently even, you will project that into other things that they might not even be involved with, but because it's this negative schism in the world, in your reality, you associate that negativity automatically with Israel. And so you're tying Israel to things and looking for connections that don't exist, or they might exist, but the way that you're looking at them is from the wrong perspective or not with enough context to understand what you're looking at. Okay, the world of geopolitics, most people can't even manage their own checkbook. All right, people have outstanding text messages and emails from last week they haven't replied to people. There are people who don't know where their birth certificate is. There are people who don't know where their driver's license is. And those people are telling you that Israel is to blame for everything. Let's just try to narrow it down a little bit with this Iran, okay? Because Iran is very interesting. I think this is where the mask comes off. All right, there's no more makeup with this. If you are in the Palestine camp, you would be in the Iranian camp for us liberating those people, because Palestine was about humanity, humanitarian aid, the people themselves, right? Their land, the autonomy, right? The people in Iran don't have that either. It's just in the situation where you see Israel attacking Palestine, this was the government attacking its own people, okay? In various different ways. Were they just going out and shooting people randomly? No. But once the protests start, or during while the country was just, being a country for the last 10, 20 years, dissidents, people who spoke against Khomeini or just the Iran dictatorship as it is, the autocratic situation they have there, if you spoke out against that, it was very likely you were unalived, disappeared, okay? You didn't do it. And there's also a lot of control from things being able to be shared like this from the inside, because what you probably aren't aware is the infrastructure of the country is a way, like with internet and such, that they can literally just cut off the internet. That's why you don't have videos. I mean, like, you'd have stuff at least enough during COVID. Remember, COVID, people were sharing in Italy, this is how it's going in China, this is what it looks like in Brazil, right? We don't have that because the Iranian government actually shut down the internet service. And that should give you a clue alone. Like, if the government itself was in the right, they wouldn't be shutting down the internet services, right? But further than that, what most people don't know is that for the past 20 years, I think now, the Iranian civil engineering has decided that with this influx of oil money that they were going to have, they would become a self-sufficient country. I don't have a map or a globe handy, so I'm just gonna have to hope that you can visualize in your head a desert, okay? Doesn't matter where it is in the world. You probably couldn't point to it. Maybe I'll give you credit, okay? You know roughly where Iran is. You know it's in the peninsula. Okay, so the point is, it is a desert. Primarily, it is a desert. It is arid mountains, and the point is that it does have water, but it is not a climate for growing things agriculturally, like hydro dependent. Okay, but Iran thought it was smarter than God and decided to try to become a self-sufficient agriculture state. I mean, wheat, watermelon, corn, the stuff that takes water, copious amounts of water in a desert. I can't emphasize this enough. This is not like the Nile, okay? This is not Egypt where like the flood, you know, the river floods out and it gets silt and it hydrates everything and you can just irrigate from there. You know, no, this is not like that. They had water underground for millions of years. They had the water that would melt off the snow caps of the mountains and come down to the rivers. Those rivers are gone. It's gone. The river is gone. And underground, those aquifers that take millions of years, also gone. In fact, the reason that what most people aren't even aware is that the reason that we're even here today is that a few months ago, it finally reached, in Iran, it finally reached a point break where, and I had shared this with people back then, I actually predicted that this was going to happen. Not exactly how this, but I said that the Iranian regime would not be in power this time next year, and that was a couple months ago. All right, and the reason was because of what I'm sharing right now, the water shortage. You see, when they decided to become this self-sufficient agricultural society, they had all the money from the oil, okay? And so they didn't have a budget. And in fact, it's kind of like FDR, maybe a little history lesson too. FDR, during the Great Depression, came up with alphabet soup, as they called it, because there's all these like 3 and 4 letter groups, organizations that would go out and build things, right? Because of the recession, FDR took the government checkbook and put the American people to work to build things like the Hoover Dam. I don't think that was necessarily part of it, but big parks like that. In fact, there's probably, wherever you're viewing this, a state park near you within an hour or two that was built as part of these programs. And so Iran did something very similar. They were building dams everywhere because, of course, they needed to control the water and capture the water and direct it and irrigate things. All right, that's fine and dandy, especially when you have, like I said, millions of years of water under your desert. It's not just oil under there. And instead of like just saying we have all this oil and we have this money, we can just manage the oil and buy our produce and stuff. Now, there's of course other complications. Part of the reason they wanted to become a self-sufficient state is because they wanted to pursue nuclear weapons. I mean, energy only. But when they were trying to pursue and creating all the building the infrastructure for the nuclear development and enriching the uranium so that it was well past the energy needs of 3 to 4% into the 60% range, they started getting sanctions. Imagine that. Because a country who has, you know, practically embroidered on their flag death to Israel, you know, can't really be trusted with nuclear warheads. You know, a lot more things than that even. Anyway, so with their decision to pursue nuclear, they got cut off from a lot of the world. They got sanctioned, and so their retaliation to that was, we're going to become self-sufficient. We got all the oil we need. We just need to grow the food to eat, right? So that's what they did. They built a bunch of dams, and they put all that water back into the ground, into a bunch of plants that then got evaporated and blew over China. All right? All the water in Iran is now in China. because of evaporation and rain shower cycles. The point is to say that we were already coming to today, months ago, years ago. There's so much turmoil and unrest and like real, actual foundational problems with this country that it was going to topple either way. And that's why I support the US involvement, because the people of Iran wanted us to help. We had a very minimal amount of engagement. I thought it was well calculated in the strategy. Now, obviously, today is just the first day and it's not over. I'm hoping that there's not satellite attacks. That was one concern for me, was that by postponing this eventual battle, you're allowing the IRGC, Iran, to get weapons and money out of Iran, but also into the hands of other operators and stuff, so that it might be difficult to hit any country with a missile. But if you have some kind of sleeper agent with a dirty bomb or something in a subway. And so that's really my fear, is not so much any direct, at least not for America because we're so far away, but some of those issues with countries. And as far as I'm aware today, it does sound like Iran has haphazardly or without any kind of clear understanding, but they've bombed locations in every state around them. The Islamic states as well, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Lebanon, Syria, I had heard. So not just Israel. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. But now that you have a little bit of back history between the politics, the people, and again, that infrastructure is so important. I'm actually very sad for the people in Iran, because this is only the first part of a very big problem that they're trying to solve. Changing the leadership is only going to put new people in place of some really serious issues that they have to tackle. Not to mention, because of the war and because of the water and because of the oil, their economy, I think it was something like 130. I'm not going to get into the numbers, but the inflation, as you can imagine, due to this, and they already didn't have a very quality currency. So my heart goes out to the Iranian people, and I truly feel that this is a monumental shift. And in a year from now, we're going to see something so beautiful happening around the world, because Iran, in the heart of the world, is about to start healing Israel and Iran, and the people can come back together. And I guess I did start this with the conspiracy, and so let me finish this by saying, how can you possibly accuse Israel of doing this after everything that I've shared? So I'm glad that we did it this way, but everything that I've shared, for Israel to be in conspiratorial control right now with bombing Iran and roping America, the USA, into it, that would mean that the last 20 years of the Iranian people being killed, being disappeared by their own government, the other countries not stepping in. Why is it that no other countries were against this action? I mean, some of them might have said, like, let's solve this peacefully, right? There's definitely that, but you didn't see any other countries, like any of the Islamic countries. Why didn't you see Saudi Arabia saying, US, you better think twice? Why do you think that? Maybe it's because Iran is a bad neighbor to everybody. Everybody. And so unless you can convince me that the other 19 Islamic countries in that area, from Egypt to Syria, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, are also conspiring with Israel, I'm not really sure how that makes sense. Again, Iran shot missiles into other Islamic countries just now today in retaliation to the strikes on its own. The other thing that you would have to convince me of with Israel, I don't see Israelis like talking about taking over that land. I don't see any public announcements. I've never seen any like leaked secret plans to take it over. And then you'd also have to convince me that the people, like, are you telling me that Israel is like conspiring 30 to 40,000 people to protest at a time, maybe 100,000, knowing that it's very, very likely, especially if they're at the front, that they're going to not come home? That's a hell of a conspiracy. I mean, that's a whopper. That's a whopper. That Israel convinced the people of Iran and all the Islamic countries surrounding Iran that Khomeini needs to go. What? Good job, Israel. Teach the rest of the world some lessons. And anyway, I still want to be serious that my heart goes out to those who have lost their lives today and the people that would be impacted by those acts. As I've said earlier, war is not humane. But I really do hope that this can find resolution as humanely as possible, because it is a turning point in the world. Whether it's however it is, the world is not going to be the same after today. I guarantee you that.